Morning, everybody. Sorry for the appearance. I thought I'd probably video this response rather than type it with all the errors that can come with that. This is just a video from me to you guys to save me typing. Feel free to pass it on if you feel it's relevant or worthwhile, but don't worry too much. This is just about me talking to you, hence the appearance. Apologies for that. I will send it over to you, Strange, later today, so you can, if you think it's worthwhile doing anything with it, you may. Okay, so this is in response to the letter that Andy just posted about the mortgage holiday. I don't know if that was yours, Andy, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a good example of what's going on, and it's certainly the kind of communication a lot of people are going to be receiving from their creditors. So I suppose the first question is, did anybody really think that the banks were going to walk quietly away from all of this? They'll just go, oh, okay, yeah, everything's changed now. That's the way things are. We'll just shut down our entire business model. Let's think about what that business model is for banks. Banks really only have two functions, creation of debt and collection of debt. Well, that is more critically collection of the interest on debt. They don't need to recollect the debt, as we've discussed. And so that's it. That's their function. They create debt and then they expect people to pay it back with interest. And that's their entire business model. And the UK government has said no for 3 months. You can't do that in the UK. You can't collect debts. And as we've seen, the furlough scheme has been extended to October. So as I said back in March, really don't see how the debt repayment holidays and the mortgage repayment holidays and everything don't also get extended, at least for another 90 days or until October. That would seem about right. That seems to me straightforward and obvious because there's nothing around at the moment to say, oh yeah, we'll go back to work tomorrow. They've tried it and it's not progressing very quickly, and it's really showing the mounting that has to be climbed. So I'm predicting a further 3-month extension, especially for those who've taken a 3-month extension already. Banks also know what this is leading to, which is the debt wipe, because there's no other way out of this. A lot of what I've been talking about, it seems like a really good idea, and that'd be really nice, and wouldn't that be wonderful, and is that a good reason to do it? Can we get enough people behind it to really, persuade the bankers and the politicians to enact this debt wipe? But that's misunderstanding the situation. The debt wipe will be done as an attempt to salvage the existing economic system. Okay, now what we need is a completely new economic system, or at least a 98% new economic system. There's maybe a few good things that we can take from our attempts at democratic capitalism. But what we really need is a wholly new system. Look, for example, at the donut economic system that they're doing in Amsterdam, where you just can completely reconfigure everything. And obviously that would come with a debt wipe as well, because you're going to a whole new economy. But the debt wipe we're talking about is not going to a new economy. We're talking about their attempt to just reset everything, hopefully get it going again, so that all the people who occupy various positions in the debt pyramid can continue to live the lives that they were promised and that they compromised every aspect of their soul and integrity to achieve. That's why there will be a debt wipe, not because it's a nice thing to do for everybody, but because it's the only way there stands a chance of resurrecting the old school I said democratic then, state capitalist approach, which is not democratic, it's oligarchic. So the debt wipe will have to happen because of that. Now, when will it happen? Will it happen in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, 18 months' time? It will happen within 3 years, I think. If it hasn't happened within 3 years, then I might start apologising for leading everybody up the garden path. But I think it could be as soon as October this year. So let's have a think about that debt wipe. Sorry, I'm kind of oscillating here because I sort of think I'm on camera doing a performance, but I've got to keep reminding myself I'm just talking to you guys, friends. You all know me, and I'm not leading you to any conclusions. Let's look at that letter. Like I say, I don't know if it's yours, Andy, but it's a good example of plenty of letters that are going around. Well, what are they saying? They're saying, oh, well, you could have a 3-month holiday, but we don't advise it. Because look at all these situations. Oh, if you do this, this will happen, and you'll have to pay all this additional rent, and you've got an additional 3 months at the end of what? Well, firstly, on the time, all right, the extending of the time. Well, in case anybody else hadn't registered, It's quite an unusual time at the moment. COVID-19 was unexpected, to say the least, as was the response to it. So we're all having to look at our plans over the short, mid, and long term. The idea that adding 3 months to the length of time you're planning to continue to pay your mortgage, if that 3 months is anywhere more than 3 years down the line, I wouldn't worry about it. Everything will definitely completely change one way or another. We'll either be in a rank depression and all housing stock will have been nationalized because there's so much negative equity and nobody can do anything. Then it will happen that way. It'll happen if humanity gets its head together, pulls its head out of its arse, stops listening to demagogues and gets on with practical stuff. Then it will happen. And it'll happen at all points in between, really, because it's the only thing that can happen. But let's say within 3 years, all right? So you're 3 months, you're adding on 3 months, 3 years, 10 years, or 15 years down the line. Well, everything's really, you can't predict anymore. The bankers who are on the other side of this deal with you, who have made a bet on your continuing to tithe over whatever percentage of your earnings you've agreed to pay over. They don't want any risk. You know, they don't want any risk. And so they're, oh, please, no, just continue to pay. Because we can't do anything else. If you don't continue to pay, we've got insurance companies, but we know what happened last time we milked our credit default swap insurance policies. We crashed the economy. Bankers crashed the economy, not we. Crash the economy. So they need to keep this kind of money coming in. So on the one hand, the government is saying to them, if you don't allow the payment holiday, we will nationalize you. Yes, you're very likely heading towards a debt wipe anyway, but don't worry, we'll sort something out on that so everyone can stay afloat. That's why we'll do it. But you're definitely going to be nationalized if you don't offer this payment holiday to your customers. The banks say, well, that's basically death for us because we know that once you stop, it's going to be impossible to restart for several reasons. Firstly, the obvious one, if somebody can't afford to pay 1 month of their debt servitude because of their changed circumstances as a result of COVID-19, how are they going to be able to pay it in 3 months' time or 6 months' time or 12 months' time? They're not. And the longer they don't pay it, the more the debt builds up until it becomes fully odious. Just like the kind of thing that Bob Geldof would organise a concert over if it were happening to a nation in the developing world, which I should point out have also on a debt freeze. The bottom 77 poorest nations, the 77 nations with the least amount of wealth have all their debts have been parked already for 7 months, and the same thing will apply for them. For 3 months. The same thing will apply for them. Their debts will be forgiven because why not? This is a critical thing. Continuing to maintain the debt pyramid only benefits those at the very top of the debt pyramid. It's a pyramid scheme. We know what pyramid schemes are. Even if you don't work in banking, you've heard of pyramid schemes. People have told you to steer clear of them. That's all debt is. Debt is just a pyramid scheme, and everybody gets talked into it, particularly if you're British, and you have to get on the property ladder because an Englishman's home is his castle. All right, so you've now got this thing where the bank is saying to you, all right, well, you can take your holiday by all means, but are you sure? Because look what's going to happen if you don't pay anything for 3 months. This is going to happen. This is going to build up. And are you sure? Are you really sure? Well, to be honest, when you talk about a mortgage debt, the scale of it is so great that 3 months here or there, it doesn't make an awful lot of difference. Look at the introductory rates that they offer. When they first start, the 2 to 3 to 5 years. 3 months in a 300 monthly repayment cycle is, it's not to get upset about, and it's certainly to be kept in perspective with everything that's going on in the world. Yeah, sure, in the normal circumstances, we're all trucking along, and suddenly, for a very minor reason, you're offered a payment holiday. Well, no, but everything's kind of changed. But let's get back to the sums. All right, so for most people who are paying a mortgage, it's their biggest monthly outgoing. 5, 600,000, whatever. I think 25 to 30% of someone's net income, I think, is the average. That's what they'll pay on their mortgage. Now, think about this. That's a lot of money that they have to pay on their mortgage. If they continue to pay that, they'll be short money elsewhere. Particularly if, like 81% of the people on the planet, they've been economically affected by COVID-19. So it's that other money that they're not able to spend because they're paying down this huge sum on their mortgage. Okay, well, where do they get that from? Credit cards, usually, loans, borrowing with higher interest rates, 21%, 25, 30%. God, you can go all the way to payday loans if you get really desperate. Now, what you got to do is offset that. So if you don't, all right, okay, fine, your mortgage is likely to be your lowest interest debt. So factoring that in, how much is that going to cost you in terms of additional accrued interest over the time? Yeah, you add 3 months or you add 6 months. Okay, well, just do the sums. That's all the bankers are doing. They've got people to do it. They've got spreadsheets. Just work out the sums and then work out if you continue to pay your 500 or your 1,000 on your mortgage, what other consumer debt are you running up? More importantly, you could say, what other consumer debt are you not paying off? Because you could be, I've got my mortgage and I definitely don't want to go for that another 3 months at 6% per annum. Oh, that would be terrible. Instead, I will continue to run all my credit cards, which are maxed out or running at their high limits. Now, sure, you've got no other debts, don't worry at all. I wouldn't bother taking a break. If you've got no problems, don't take a break. If the mortgage is your only debt. But if you've got any other debt anywhere else, it's likely to be a higher APR than your mortgage. So pay that off instead of paying off your mortgage. Reduce your 3 months on those and tack another 3 months on. That will work. You can do it. There's obviously it's individual circumstances. But the key one here is a bet. Okay, now the mortgage is the biggest con in retail banking because it's a one-way bet. Banks risk nothing on a mortgage. They've got title to the property until the mortgage is paid off. If you, for whatever reason, can't pay it, well, the property accrues to the bank. Thank you very much. No risk at all to them. Even if you stop paying, even if you don't pay, they take the house back. They're not on the hook for the money. They can write it off as a bad debt. Yeah, all right, so they lost the interest that they projected to get. But they don't lose anything at all. It's a one-way bet. Well, now here's an opportunity for you to redress that. You can make a bet with the bank. What if there is going to be a debt wipe in 3, 6, 12 months' time? The reason why you take a payment holiday now is, yeah, okay, fine, sort out your immediate cash flow problems. But actually, if there's going to be a debt wipe, why continue to pay your debts? I bet there's other stuff you can be spending the money on, particularly, higher interest rates if you want to do that. But I would say don't worry about paying off your debts at all. Not now. And if in 3, 6, 12 months' time, somehow, some way, everything goes back to normal, well, okay, it's been a time warp. It's been the snap. It's been that 5-year interregnum between Infinity War and the Endgame. And everybody gets back somehow to this new reality, to adjusting to what's going on, and everything's going to be different. And all this long-term financial planning that was sold to you in the old school 1.0 economy, you do this, do that, pay your time, and in 25 years you'll be an owner-occupier, just in time for you to sell it in order to pay for your care home, where you go and wait. Sorry, I got distracted there. It's all right, I'm only talking to you guys, isn't it? I'm not talking to everybody else. It's fine. So I lost in a moment there. There's a whole big area around care homes, isn't there? There's something we've got to sort out. We don't take care of our kids, but Jesus, do we not take care of our wisest and most experienced members of society? Another topic. So look, there you go. That's the point. Look at it. Yes, of course, it sounds like banks. Oh. Let's not forget the nonsense where banking is the one consumer activity where the consumer has to beg the retailer, please let me give you a quarter of my earnings for the next 25 years of my life. Please. Okay, yes. It's all a farce. We know it's all a farce now. It's clearly all a farce. You don't need to continue with that now. They're sending you an intimidating letter. They're loan sharks. What? We really think you should keep paying. It's much more important than you keep paying. It's that, I don't know if everybody watched that Four Horsemen. I strongly encourage you to do so because it's just a great collection of all really very intelligent people, right? It's not a polemic. They're not really trying to lead you to a conclusion. They make that clear at the beginning, right? They're just trying to lay out the facts so that everybody can get a grip on what exactly has been going on so that we can stop it going on. It's a pyramid scheme run by crooks that has immiserated most of the world and has created a society that cannot respond to what is, let's face it, And with all due deference to those who have lost loved ones, on a statistical epidemiological basis, it's a fairly mild virus. This is not AIDS. It's not HIV. It's another bad respiratory issue. Okay, and that's bad, particularly if you've got underlying issues and obviously personal relationships. But on the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad. But look what it's done to this economy. Just pop, stop. No, you can't handle that. Imagine if there'd been a meteor strike, a real problem. Anyway, I digress. There's my point. That's all I've got to say. I hope that makes sense. Come back if it doesn't and there's more detail you want. Or maybe now that I've got all the sort of funding and things sorted out, I'm going to try and get next week going into a more sort of structured, really take what we've been germinating here for the last couple of months and let's try and strike out with it. And obviously we've all got lots of different ideas and perspectives on how we can strike out with this. So let's all share them and let's come up with an aggregate, a gestalt, and go forward with that because we'll all support it. All right, guys, thank you very much. Bye.